Our current model of the world is based on influential ideas from the past. Isaac Newton's ideas of the universe being a machine made of replaceable parts. Francis Bacon's ideas of understanding science in order to control nature. Darwin's explanations of evolution, which was a great achievement, and the interpretation of his theory is now well known as survival of the fittest. His explanation yet is incomplete, since he did not address symbiosis. Current mentality and systems are still based on these facts of the past, when contemporary science has moved forward towards concepts like quantum physics, where matter is an illusion, as it is replaced by energy waves. Gaia hypotheses, which understands the world as a superorganism made up of collaborative living organisms, and the fact that genes do not self-activate. If we accept Newton's ideas that the universe is made of replaceable parts, that each action leads directly to a reaction, then it would be obvious to think that our individual actions are isolated from other parts of action. If we ourselves are made of replaceable parts, this would mean that if we have a defective organ, we could replace it with a new one. Contemporary mainstream medicine still applies this concept of replaceable parts, while creating pills that, while curing one symptom, have an array of side effects. According to the Nutrition Institute of America, medicine is the most common reason for death in the United States. Our bodies are made of 5 trillion cells which live in harmony and collaborate. We still don't know how exactly they all work together. Following Francis Bacon's idea of understanding nature in order to control, it is hard to think about controlling a set of interactions that is so collaborative in its efforts to survive and actually depends on so many factors. Contemporary scientists are finding out that sequence of events aren't linear, but actually work as a network where every interaction is important. The interactions in our bodies are way more complex than we ever imagined. Each interaction is highly responsive to our environment. One evident flaw in the assumptions scientists made in their attempt to control nature was the Human Genome Project. With the great idea to find a gene for every one of our traits, scientists were expecting to find 120,000 genes. Pharmaceutical industries invested millions of dollars in the project with the lucrative idea in mind of making gene patents in order to monopolize medicine, targeting each specific gene. 25,000 genes were found, only 1,000 more genes than a pinworm, which is made up of a mere 969 cells. Scientists explain the small number of genes found in the human genome with the multifunctionality of every gene, where one gene can produce up to 10 different gene products in different organs. To what extent are we a product of our genes? Only 2% of our population comes to the world with a genetic malfunction, and roughly 5% of cancer is directly related to the genes found responsible. Genes are just a blueprint for our body, comparable to the hard drive of your computer. They are only the information. If you were to take the cell nucleus out of the cell, it would live up to 2 weeks without having any DNA in it. So what really dictates who we are? Each interaction we have with our environment creates signals that are communicated to our cells. It is through the cell membrane that each of our 5 trillion cells knows what genes should be activated to produce the protein needed at a certain time. Our brain, nervous and endocrine systems relay the messages we need our body to know about the environment we live in. So, if we look at Darwin's theory of natural selection, it seems to be implying that the species with the best genes would be the most likely to survive. However, looking at how our body actually works, it is important to notice that the best informed organisms are more likely to survive.
Environment doesn't mean merely a farm in New England or a carrier at sea. It means all of the circumstances to which the individual must react. Some make no difference. Some are favorable. Some are unfavorable.
Most often, it is the organisms that collaborate that have the most accurate perception of their surroundings. And each cell's perception depends on the number of antennae it has on its membrane. There is a pioneer in voicing out this new set of beliefs. Bruce Lipton, Ph.D., promotes the idea that our perception is responsible for activating our genes. So it is not only our interaction with the environment, but our perception about our relationship to our environment is also important. Lipton argues the fact that by believing that we are a mere result of our genes makes us victims of our heredity and therefore victims of a pharmaceutics industry that tells us every day how sick we are. This places us in the back seat of our biological vehicle, unable to give direction to our own lives. But if we look at all the recent studies and efforts done by contemporary scientists, we can be empowered by knowing that our perception is actually the one that activates our gene activity. So if we believe we live in a safe environment, we will give good signals to all our 5 trillion cells, and they will collaborate and grow together. It is important to note that our environment and our perception of it are 2 separate things. It is through our perception filters that we make sense of the world we live in.